the judge noticed that the language about not to prosecute was, first of all, not in the plea agreement, which is where it normally is. It was in the diversionary agreement, and it covered not just firearms charges, but all activities for the years in question. And so that's where she zeroes in on and say, look, I'm reading this. This document would seem to say that Hunter's immune for everything he did in these years. Is that your understanding? And the Department of Justice said, no, that's not our understanding. And Hunter Biden said, yes, that is our understanding. And that's where the deal fell apart.
Welcome to the Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering and where the story's going next. Sarah Bedford, and I'm here today with commentary editor Conn Carroll. And Conn, Hunter Biden's plea deal collapsed this week. It's a huge, huge development in the Hunter Biden case. What were some of your top takeaways from Hunter Biden's day in court?
Well, first it was entertaining. I mean, the deal was dead and then alive and then dead again, all within the span of a couple hours.
Roller coaster.
That was fascinating. But I think, it smelled fishy right away. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest reason why is plea agreements are public documents, right? So this is something that should have been filed with the court publicly so that you and I could read it, anyone could read it beforehand, but it wasn't, right? Mm-hmm. So the judge obviously had it. And thanks to Politico, who got a photograph of it, we now have it now, but only because of a leak to press. It's still not out there. So why isn't this thing public? Is it really a issue that made it suspicious from the beginning? And then when you get into the questioning from this judge, who's a Trump-appointed judge, you see kind of why it was probably not made public, which is. There's two documents in question here. So a lot of people say that Hunter Biden pled guilty to tax charges and gun charges. That's actually technically not true. Mm-hmm. So he was scheduled to plead guilty to the two tax charges, but he was actually never going to agree to plead guilty to the gun charge. What he agreed to do was go into a diversionary agreement so that he'd be charged, but then that charge would be wiped completely clean. He was never going to be convicted of the gun charge under this plea deal. So there's therefore two documents. One, a plea agreement about the tax stuff, and second, a diversionary agreement that covers the gun charge. Except the judge noticed that the language about not to prosecute was, first of all, not in the plea agreement, which is where it normally is. It was in the diversionary agreement, and it covered not just firearms charges, but all activities for the years in question. And so that's where she zeroes in on and say, look, I'm reading this. This document would seem to say that Hunter's immune for everything he did in these years. Is that your understanding? And the Department of Justice said, no, that's not our understanding. And Hunter Biden said, yes, that is our understanding. And that's where the deal fell apart, because the Justice Department wasn't willing to say publicly in court what the plain language of what the document clearly says.
After all of this, how does Attorney General Merrick Garland not appoint a special counsel? Is that sort of pressure going to ratchet up on him? Because now, this isn't just House Republicans saying this. This isn't just, partisan talking heads. This was an impartial judge who recognized that something was fishy here, as you said.
Yeah, well, it's very easy. Merrick Garland doesn't answer to you or me. He answers to President Biden.
Right.
And so as long as President Biden says he's doing a job, he'll keep his job. So I think what you have here is, I think there was definitely political pressure from Republicans to look at this deal. I think that they got lucky that there was an actually Trump judge as appointed to it. And I think that pressure, did embarrass the Dutch Department of Justice into saying, no, look, our plea deal is not as broad as it says here. We are looking into other things, and so we don't do that. So I think there is some political pressure here, but I do not think it yet rises to a special counsel. I think what you are going to see is the Department of Justice getting a little more firm and maybe changing up what this plea deal is about, because as of yesterday, there is no deal. There is a wide gap between what the Department of Justice says is their position on what they're willing to offer and what Hunter says he's willing to agree to.
Is the White House's messaging on this so far tenable, do you think? Can the White House continue to come out and, play this word game about whether Joe Biden ever discussed business versus having been in business with Hunter Biden? With all of this going on, and you have testimony this upcoming week of Devin Archer, former business partner, Hunter Biden, is that a tenable position for the White House?
For right now, yes. Frank Luntz, who is trying to make a buck, whatever else, he's on ABC News, other places saying, look, Democrats and more important, independent voters don't care about Hunter, right? So that gives the White House free pass to say whatever they want in the press conferences, say whatever in the White House press releases, and just blow it off. But you do have the House hearings where you had the IRS whistleblowers come forward and say, look, we weren't even allowed to talk to Hunter. Not only weren't we allowed to talk to Hunter, but when we tried, Department of Justice tipped him off. Department of Justice also has not allowed us to talk to any of the Hunter family members. These are all facts which weren't known before, which ups the political pressure on Biden and the White House. And there may be more stuff that comes out from the Archer testimony next week.
Well, Conn, thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely.
You can get more writing from Conn and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.